Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Dailies on Network Television, where we keep you updated with the happenings on the paper. Part of which we are seeing is the fact that the federal government may grant about 60 private jets today as a result of import duty, where we're seeing that there are still talks concerning the price of petrol, where we're seeing Dangote will be coming up a meeting by Tuesday, which is tomorrow, with the marketers regarding the price of petrol. So we hope that you keep your fingers crossed, drop your comment, drop your views. They are always welcome on Facebook as well as on YouTube. I am Sada Laisha Dasho. I'm doing this program alongside Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sally, and happy
Morning.
birthday.
Thank
So
you.
while viewers are dropping their comments, they should wish you a happy
All
birthday.
right. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Rachel. All right. Without much waste of time, we will rush into the papers, starting with the Punch newspaper.
The big story on the paper, import duty. Federal government may ground 60 private jets today. Top bank chairman, business moguls affected. Nama gets list of affected planes. Dangote meets marketers Tuesday over new petrol price. Benin, Togo owe Nigeria $5.7 million electricity debt, a report from NERC. On PDP crisis, Damagun camp anti-Wike governors may clash today. God never planned suffering for Nigerians, a statement from past President Obasanjo. Federal government Italy finalized talks on 34 new fighter jets. You can find details on page 13. Cooking gas price jumps to 1,500 naira per kg. NDLEA naps Thailand returnee with 3 billion naira drugs. Obaseki Opebolo transition panels discussion handover today. Obaseki Opebolo transition panels discuss handover today. You can find details on page 59, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
All right. Let's take a look at this day newspaper, where we have Lopoberi. Federal government targets 40,000 barrel per day from NNPC WAEP Century FPSO JV in Lagos. With the writer following that story, says facility critical to Nigerians' efforts to ramp up oil output. You can do well start reading on the front page and continue on page 5. Aftermath of COVID intervention, 70% of oxygen equipment lying waste, says Global Fund. Still on this day newspaper, keep faith with Tinubu, Tuga appeals to Nigerians. The big story on the paper, where we're seeing the crisis happening in PDP concerning the chairman, where we are seeing Mohammed accept to replace Damagum as the PDP crisis deepens. Writer following that story says pledges to abide by party's constitution. Instruct North Central to forward names of choice candidates for chairmanship. Do well to read who will be and what is happening regarding that on the front page and on page 5. Red Cross and CDC intensify efforts at tackling monkeypox outbreak, with data found on page 39. And we have a picture story, a new monarch emerges, where we can see Governor Dapon Abiodun, the newly installed Lapo Eku Tunde, as well as we have other after the installation of the Olulaja in Ogun State recently, and that's all in this day newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, Oyedele denies proposing reduction of federal government's share in FAAC allocation. Super Eagles need creative midfielder to unlock Boniface potential, ex-Flying Eagles coach is saying. Justice obstruction allegation, earpiece breaks silence, says legal proceeding will not impact safety, reliability, operations of airline. UN Council election, federal government refutes claims of Nigeria being snubbed. Edo government urges Governor-elect Opebolo to form transition team for smooth handover. The big story on the paper, PDP internal crisis, Fayoshe opens up. The writer says party suffering from election loss hangout, denies interest in running for chairmanship of party. Factional chairman talks tough, says he was appointed to rekindle hope in party. You can find all the details on page 2. Yoruba Nation, Sunday Igboho submits petition to UK Prime Minister. Techno Oil's induction into BOI Hall of Fame morale booster. Statement from Nkechi Obi. Tax on debt, people can no longer rest in peace. Statement from Shehu Sani. And we have a picture where we can see celebrating Prince Olusi at 88. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in a warm handshake with elder statesman and leader of the Governor's Advisory Council, Prince Tajuddin Olusi, during his 88th birthday celebration over the weekend. We have an entertainment story on page 21, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, Edo government writes Opegolo APC on formation of transition team. Olu of Warri urges Africans to break free from mental limitation. More detail found on page 12 as well. The big story on the paper, petrol crisis. Federal government resolves NNPCL marketers dispute, the writer here says, as the NNPCL refutes 15 billion naira to marketers after DSS intervention. Marketers Dangote refinery set for negotiation. Delay to impact domestic market. Many outlets still short. Expert call for instant resolution of pricing and others. Consumers should shift to alternative coming from in the 11 PCL. So you can do about read more detail of that on page 5. Price of bread rises faster than inflation rate. It will continue if this is coming from bakers, and we have flour miners and give reason for the high price. Production cost rises to 45% to 2.2 trillion naira, and we're seeing the revenue rises faster at 47.5% to 2.5 trillion naira. So we can say that that might actually affect what we do mostly with flour and all of that. Do well to read all of that on page 21. DSS releases 2 hashtag end bad governance protesters in Kaduna, 125 still in detention. The National Assembly considering raising VAT to 10% by 2025. This is a document. You can do well to read that on page 35. VC appointments spark role in Uni Abuja. And we're seeing on sports on page 38, ahead of Eagles clash tomorrow, Libya in disarray as FA president resigns. You can do well to read that. The picture story we have is at the Methodist Church 40th anniversary, where we can see the FCT minister and others in attendance there yesterday. And that's all on Vanguard newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Nigeria blessed with resources, but we've squandered God's gifts. Statement from Obasanjo. NDLEA arrests Thailand returnee with 13.30 kg heroin worth over 3.19 billion naira at Lagos airport. Rivers crisis. Obio Akpo LG boss erases Wike's legacy, remains secretariat after Obi Wali. Airpeace assures uninterrupted operations amid legal proceedings involving CEO. Jigawa man arrested for setting grandmother on fire. Rivers LG elections, councillorship candidates pledge not to contest results in court. The big story is a statement from Senate President, and it has sparked outrage. Times are hard, grab free food whenever you see it. Tinubu urges Nigerians stay steadfast in prayer for nation's leaders. Senate threatens arrest of Mahi. W. Arewa orders for ignoring summons. And we have picture Sunday Igboho leads the charge, urges UK Prime Minister to support the Yoruba nation in a bold petition with his supporters. And that's all the news on First News.
On the Voice of Liberty newspaper, NOA begins campaign on National Value Charter for Prosperous Nigeria. Airpeace CEO Oyema charged with justice obstruction in ongoing U.S. fraud case. Wherever you see free food, help yourself, Apabio tells Nigerians, and I believe that Nigerians are really not happy with such a statement coming from its leader. When Nigerians have trust in you, have bestowed you with so much of integrity, which they believe that that seed you are holding is a seed that when you speak, it should get the attention of people in a positive way.
It should.
But then we've seen that for a while right now, ever since the Senate president have been on seat, there are certain utterances that he have been making that has not sit well with a number of Nigerians. And I believe that as a leader, it is expected of him to actually weigh his word before he actually speak. Because some of your words, in a time when Nigerians are going through a number of things, talking about right now, we're saying how much gas is going for about 1,005. So that is to say we're going to be seeing more people using the firewood. And we've had studies on what the smoke that is being emitted from this firewood does. But nevertheless, people still use it. We're seeing where we're talking about planting of more trees, we're seeing that more trees are going to be cut and nobody's planning to plant anything eventually because people are looking for what to eat. And here you're telling Nigerians to grab free food. Where are they intending to see this free food? Because from statement like this, you will be surprised to see Nigerian lining up and queuing up in front of his office or in front of his house. Because you see, wherever they see free food, they should grab it. So Nigerians will be looking for free food. But if he was saying this on a maybe on a lighter note, I think there are certain things that when Nigerians are going through a lot, you shouldn't make such utterances, even if you don't mean it. But as a public figure, people are looking up to you to hear things that will actually help them to know that you know what, you feel our pain and you were doing something to actually make sure that you make things better and not to make things worse by certain utterances. So I believe that if the Senate president was joking, he should please retrieve his statement back and apologize to Nigerians for such a statement.
So, the 10th House Assembly under the leadership of Akpabio have turned out to be a joke. You can't joke about the issues of Nigeria when you're supposed to be sitting down and profiling solution that Nigerians are supposed to be feeling the impact by now. We've seen them approve and pass bills that do not make sense, like changing the national anthem to the old one. When we are expecting you to sit down and pass bills on things that we will feel the impact immediately regarding what is happening with our economy and the current situation in the country, the hardship and all of that. Nothing whatsoever, but rather than a habit of just passing statement left, right, center, the eyes, the nay concerning let the poor breed and all of that. And today is a statement concerning grab free food. People don't even invite friends over for lunch anymore. Nobody pays for anybody's lunch anymore. Everybody's almost at the same level of just managing and just, finding a way to put their head, to keep their heads above water and all of that. And it's not a funny thing. We want you to put things out there that Nigerians will say, okay, you are working. We've seen the government make promises of a lot of things and nothing so far so good have come out of it. The attempt to crash the price of grains in the market have failed. So far so good, because we keep seeing rice going up every day. We see beans going up every day. We see every food going high. So what have your assembly done to crash down the price of food in the market? Together with the presidency, you are the executive. So it is expected of you to sit down and think of the way forward regarding laws in the country. What bill are you going to put out there to help with inflation? We're looking at tax and all of that. If customs are saying, okay, we're going to have some waivers for tax duty concerning certain grains. Have you sat down and made sure that it's implemented and all of that? Nothing whatsoever. So if you have free food to give Nigerians, perhaps you should send us your address and lead the way. In fact, with free buses to take people to your house so that people can eat. But this is a very careless statement, and if Nigerians are outraged by that statement, they have every right to do so, because we're looking at an administration 1 year plus and have not done anything whatsoever to be able to reduce the hardship. Just policies upon policies that just so far so good have increased the hardship. And it also proves that, you know what, some of these decisions you're taking, it is long term. What are the short term things you're putting to help Nigerians? And for those that are supposed to be short term and are not serving us well, you need to sit down and revisit them and do something about them. These are the things you should be charging the president. Without charging the president as an assembly, you should sit down also and look to it. But I mean, we are just in for a show with the Senate president, and I know that this won't be the last hilarious or ridiculous thing coming out from his mouth.
Well, Richard, I hope that this will be the last, honestly, just like I said. I mean, even if we're talking about Nigerians going back to the way things were before, I mean, even a charcoal right now, the back of charcoal is talking about 8,000 naira. So, how many people
Expensive.
can even afford that and none of that? No wonder Labour is saying that the government deceived them when they decided to make them to accept 70,000 as a minimum wage and then going ahead to increase the price of petrol. So we hope to see a more sensitive
We hope so.
10th House of Assembly with their utterances. Still on the voice of liberty, where we are seeing transparency group demands immediate removal of Mele Kyari, or director says we will occupy NNPCL towers. The Transparency Advocacy for Development Initiative have called for the immediate and urgent dismissal of Mele Kyari as the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, along with his entire leadership team. And this is not the first time we've seen people moving for that. We hope to see what the government will do regarding that. Again, bandits block Zamfara Highway, abduct several travelers. We hope the government is really doing something concerning securing lives and property. Reverse latest petrol price hike pending. Court verdict. Syrup to Tinubu. You read that in the paper. We have secessionist leader Ibuhu take Yoruba nation agitation to UK, which we saw a picture story in one of the papers earlier. Self-determination, North must prepare for possible separation. Waziri Castina Professor Lukgak saying that. You can do well to read more detail in the paper, and that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On Blueprint newspaper, police uncovered den of human traffickers in Port Harcourt. Electricity subsidy dropped to 380 billion naira in the second quarter of the year, a report from NERC. AFCON qualifiers Super Eagles arrive Benina for Libya cracker. The big story on the paper, 34 new fighter jets to combat terrorism expected 2025. The writer says troops seized 230,000 liters of crude, destroyed 37 illegal refineries in the Niger Delta. Zamfara community guard leader survives terrorist attack. Nigeria not snub at UN Council elections, a statement from the presidency. Reverse latest petrol price hike, Serap tells Tinubu. Urges president to allow court determine case. And that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Sanwo-Olu is first passenger as the red line rolls off. You can read that on page 7. We are seeing massive demand investment in CNG. This on a business interview which you can find on page 38. And the NDA intercept 22.7 billion naira drugs in Lagos and Rivers. Ayedati were 73,000 naira minimum wage deceptive. Carrot says PDP. You can read that on page 7. Recapitalization, 5 banks bid for 1 trillion naira capital rising. You can do well to read that in the paper. My lawyers working to clear me in US fresh charges, says Airpeace chairman. The big story, PDP crisis. Fractional chairman defies court order and resumes with the rider. I have started preparation for October 24th NEC meeting. Party is gone, says Fayoshe. Where we are having a statement here that says North Central is hereby requested to urgently meet and forward its nominee for the national chairman to my office for necessary preparation and forwarding for consideration and approval by NEC at the October 24th meeting. You can do well to read more detail of that in the paper. 34 fighter jet coming to join terrorism battle. We are having arrival begins the first quarter of next year. Government to boost the Nigerian Air Force operation capacity, says Matawali. You can read that on page 4. Train crushes man, 50 to dead in Lagos. A very sad one at that. And we have troops destroy another 37 illegal refineries. Detail found on page 8. We still have this picture story that I've been showing in some of our paper, giving a gift to the Indomie hero. You can do well to get the paper and read more detail of any other story, and that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Daily Independent, the big story: flight delays, cancellations fuel call for local route cut for airlines. Over 40,000 flights delayed, 400 cancelled in 2023. New PDP acting national chairman assures on NEC meeting holding October 24th. And the writer says asks North Central to send nominee to serve out IU's tenure. Opposition lawmakers hail acting chairman. Like IFRS 9 implementation, Nigerian banks behind peers in ISO 2022 standard adoption. Still on the paper, Sunday Igboho petitions UK PM urges support for Yoruba nation. Reps move to halt proliferation of skills acquisition center, seeks establishment of commission for regulation and evaluation. You can find details on page 7. God didn't create Nigeria to struggle. You can find details of this statement on page 29. Nigeria not snubbed during UN Human Rights Council polls, statement from presidency. Bayo Onanuga needs help, says Atiku's aide. Many killed, police station, vehicles, houses burned over kidnapped youth in Edo. And we have a picture where we can see stakeholders, where we can see General Gowon, we can see Obasanjo, we can see Wiki at Baptist and 40 years anniversary, and also the UNLNG logo, inspiring a sustainable future. And that's all the news on Daily Independent newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at New Telegraph newspaper, where we start with the big story: confusion as 9 PDP governors reportedly endorsed Damago's suspension. PDP unfamiliar part of seasonal implosion ahead the 2027 polls on slippery slope to extinction. Detailed on page 4, 9, 10, and 11. T-bill CBN reform boosts foreign investor stake by $2.68 billion. Federal government seek end to multiple taxation on businesses. You can read that on page 8. Serap to Tinubu Serap to Tinubu to reverse the latest hike in PMS price pending court verdict. Obasanjo is saying, I believe God didn't create Nigeria to struggle of court, but then I think the country has been unfortunate to have bad leaders that have actually squandered all that the country has. You can read more detail of what he has to say regarding that on page 4. Senate threatens Umahi Dabiri and others with arrest. And then concerning Rivers crisis, Fubara is governor and leader coming from Secondos. You can read what made him said that on page 6. Still a New Telegraph newspaper, where we have Nigeria not on pilot for the UN Human Rights Council poll, coming from the presidency. Sunday Igbo who seek UK Prime Minister support for Yoruba nation. And in Edo State, where we have scores killed, police station vehicles set ablaze over alleged protection of kidnappers. More detail found on page 25. Still on insecurity, Air Chief visit Italy for acquisition of 34 fighter jet and helicopters. You can read more detail of that on page 6, 14, and 16. Coming from Edo State, Guber, where we have the APC candidate petitions tribunal over Okpeholo's victory. I won't go to court to contest the result, coming from Apata. And then as Edo government writes, the governor elects APC on formation of a transition team. More detail found on page 2 and 7. We have a study here that says chronic stress increase colorectal cancer progression. You can do more detail to read that, talking about colon lateral cancer. So do well to read detail of that on page 27. We still have the picture story of the Methodist Church Thanksgiving and anniversary. Do well to get the paper and read more detail. But before we move further with the paper reviews, we'd love to take a break. Quite a lot of stories for you to actually air your views on, looking at what is happening in the country, what we have the former president saying regarding whether Nigeria is to progress or not, where we're having Sunday Igboho as well taking a petition to the UK concerning the Yoruba agitation. And then we have quite a number of other stories concerning the price of gas, as well as the meeting between marketers and Dangote, what the price will be for PMS, and then syrup as well calling on the president to reverse on the price of the PMS. So we can do well to, go through the stories, drop your comment, and when we come back, we will continue with the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions, we want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper where we are seeing syrup urging the president to reverse the price of petrol, as well as we're also looking at the transparency group calling for the sacking of Mele Kyari. And as well, we have other stories on the paper which are quite of interest. The crisis happening in PDP, whether or not there will be a new chairman. So we're seeing that there seems to be a fraction in the party. So you can do well to please go through the stories, drop your comment, drop your views, as they are always welcome. I still have Rachel with me. Thank you so much.
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sarah.
All right, we should be looking at the next paper, which is the Nigerian News Direct.
The big story on the paper, reverse petrol price hike pending court verdict. Serap tells Tinubu, warns of constitutional crisis, judicial interference, says petrol price increase will hurt vulnerable Nigerians. Igboho seeks UK PM support for Yoruba Nation agitation. NDLEA seizes 22.7 billion naira worth of opioids, arrests Thailand returnee with 3.1 billion naira heroin in Lagos. Lukpobiri Keyamo to commission Nigeria's largest jet fuel depot. Century FPSO JV to boost Nigeria's oil production by 40,000 barrels per day upon completion. And that's all news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the leadership newspaper, Kwara to build power plant, you can read that on page 32. Head of Zamfara community guards survive a gun attack, and I hope that the government are working towards making sure they secure Zamfara state and its environs, and as well as every other state in the country from the hands of this Boko Haram and its likes. More detail of that can be found on page 7. Concerning fact check, we're seeing why did APC call Amachi unpatriotic. You can do well to read why they called him that. Trending, we have Obi says the new petrol pump price insensitive. Both the trending and fact check you can find on page 2. Concerning the court verdict, reverse petrol price hike, Sirap tells Tinubu. And on PDP crisis, Damagum Mohammed dig in as party leaders move for truce. Detailed on page 7. 3 months after food import waiver policy failed to take off, where we have stringent guidelines, complex policy behind the failure, food prices still on the rise, and yet Nigerians are still yet to access the 40,000 naira 50 kg of rice. So you can draw out to find all of that on page 4. Irate youth burned down police station in Edo State. Controversy over Enugu's mortuary tax, where there have been a new tax. You can do well to read that on page 6. Yoruba Nation Igboho petition the UK Prime Minister. Nigerian efforts to acquire 34 jets helicopters. Detail found on page 7, and that's on the leadership newspaper.
On New Nigerian newspaper, continuous upward adjustment of petrol pump price by NNPCL, deliberate attack on Nigerian youth workers. Ondo polls rescue Governor Ayedatiwa from internal administrative crisis, group tax Elijah leaders and elders, list finance commissioners alleged many sins. President Tinubu must avert a Sahara energy war on Ogoni. You can find details on page 17. We have a horror 15-year-old tricycle rider hacked to death, killer roasted alive in Delta. The big story on the paper, anti-party, you're a political prostitute. Atiku's ally blast suspended PDP chairman Damogun, urges court to remand him for contempt. You can start with the details on the front page. Mass defection hits APC as over 1,000 join NNPP in Kano. Katsina governor disburses 2 billion naira to flood victims, launches second phase rice distribution to vulnerable groups. Still on the paper on hardship, Atom Initiative launches 500 million naira fund to support 2 million needy Nigerians, urges collective action to end hunger and poverty. Polar Coup Day 2024 holds with calls on herdsmen to adapt current realities. Emir of Zauzau says Fulani are peace-loving. Ebonyi Health Insurance provides financial risk protection, reduces catastrophic medical expenditures. You can find details on page 4, and that's all the news on New Nigeria.
On the Daily Times newspaper, SPDV JV partners sign landmark GSPA for $3.3 billion brass project, data found in the paper. Obasanjo to leaders utilize Nigerians' resources judiciously, laments that we have squandered God's gift, says I firmly believe God didn't create Nigeria to struggle. You can read detail of that on page 2. Federal government unveils strategic blueprint to address health sector challenges. BOI confirmed disbursement of 38.7 billion naira to 774,593 nano businesses. Rivers political crisis threatening democracy must be quickly resolved, coming from Okupe. Detail found on page 9. Under Tinubu, we will reverse growing unemployment rate. Sheitima vows, says Nigerians must begin to export skills, compete at highest level internationally. As well, we have NDLEA arrest Thailand returnee with 3.1 billion naira heroin at Lagos Airport. More detail found on page 6. We have a picture story where we can see the Minister of State Petroleum. We have the other stakeholders. This was during the brass fertilizer and petrochemical project in Bayelsa State recently, and that's all on Daily Times newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, the big story is a statement from Bode judge giving reasons why Damogun should go. Accuses PDP of violating its constitution, says interim chairman can only act for 90 days. Yayari takes over party, insists on October 24th for NEG. Tax not central to submit nominee for top post. Edo government right to Pebolo APC on formation of transition committee. PDP blasts Fubara, says he rejected offer to control Rivers structure. Hints Rivers Governor PDP GF boss may face anti-party activities charge. Concedes main opposition can lose state. Senate threatens Works Minister, HOS others with warrant of arrest. NDLEA arrests Thailand returnee with 3.1 billion heroin concealed in 6 bags at Lagos Airport. Diaspora groups commend Adeleke over mining reform and governance initiatives. Many feared killed police stations set ablaze over alleged killings, organ harvesting in Edo. You can find details of this story on page 26. Still on the paper, Nigerians go for lower quality goods as inflation, devaluation, fuel prices escalate cost of living. Companies record high value but low volume of sales. Airpeace Onyema claims innocence as U.S. indicts him over alleged $20 million bank fraud. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Guardian newspaper, uncertainty over minimum wage execution as state government falter, where we can see the president, we can have the Senate president, as well as we can see the two chairmen of the various unions talking about NLC and TUC. So you can do a read more detail of that on page 6. PDP crisis deepens, Mohammed takes charge, demands swift action. And on vacation, we have return home citizens confused about your policy. We have CSO urges Tinubu, detail found on page 3. IMF slashes borrowing costs by 36%, lowers country's exposure by $1.2 billion yearly. IMF slashes borrowing costs by 36%, lowest country's exposure by $1.2 billion yearly, detail found on page 5. Importers decry 25 million naira clearance of 40-feet container. Reverse petrol price pending court verdict, Serap tells Tinubu. You can find that story on page 5, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, touch flight, 5 things Eagles should expect in Benghazi. You can find details on page 6. Joshua versus the Boys rematch date confirmed. Libyan authorities hold Eagles hostage at airport. Libya FA boss resigns ahead Eagles clash. Fulham I Oroko Dare. You can find details on page 7. Tomori Abraham seek redemption. Tazik linked with Devil's job. Haaland rules out City exit. United prepared for £70 million Maguire loss. James offered to 2 clubs. Sabalenka wins 3rd consecutive Wuhan Open title. You can find details on page 2. And on rugby, England beat Canada to retain WXV1 title. Better Beef urges Bevel to become undisputed champion. And that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
Let's take a look at Business Day newspaper, where we have manufacturers look to local input to ease FX pressure. You can do out read what their intentions are. Why rising external reserve failed to stabilize Naira, CBN cautious of depleting reserve, coming from Robinson. Detail found on page 30. Nigeria at 54, infants pay price for government neglect. You can do well read detail of that. Eyes on Nigeria to develop framework for AI adoption. As well, we have analysts see September inflation rising ahead of official data. You can start reading on the front page and do continue on page 31. And that's all on Business Day newspaper, as well as how far we can go on this program this morning. Thank you so much to our viewers, our supporters, as well as thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. Till we come your way again tomorrow, till we come your way tomorrow. Do have a great day ahead.